During the summer of 1991, Chris and I took off 7 weeks from work and rode our tandem bicycle across the country. This is a video montage of the photo album we put together for the trip. Our trip started in Los Angeles, California on the last day in June. The route would take us mainly northeast until Colorado, at which point we would head east through the center of the country, covering a total of 12 states. We finished our trip in Nags Head, North Carolina, 47 days later. The small blue symbols on the map represent the places we stopped each day, either tent camping or getting a motel room, depending on the situation. It required careful planning to pack the bike and gear for the flight to LA. 2 hours after landing, we had everything ready to go and we were off. First stop, Venice Beach. We got a lifeguard straight out of Baywatch to take a picture of us dipping the rear tire in the Pacific. He directed us to keep backing up as he framed the shot, not realizing just how wet the bike would get. We had planned our route and starting date to avoid running into cool weather and the need to carry extra clothing. Mission accomplished. On just the second day of the trip, I find myself suffering from severe dehydration, laying on the pavement along the side of the road, shaking uncontrollably. It's tough drinking water that's nearly 100 degrees. The Mojave Desert is proving challenging. One other problem we are contending with is keeping air in our tires. Even with thorn-proof tubes and Kevlar belted tires, we managed to get 16 flats in the first 10 days, most of them being the rear tire, which is a real pain to change on a fully loaded tandem. We got into Baker, California at 10:30 a.m. and it was already 107 degrees, but no motel rooms were available. We tried to stay cool at the town pool, which was tough since it got to 122 degrees this afternoon. Just before we set up our tent, we found a motel room had opened up and we jumped at the chance to sleep in air-conditioned comfort. On the road by 6 a.m. for our 18-mile climb. Not exceptionally steep, but long, unrelenting, and hot. Along the way, we got numerous honks, followed by thumbs up from passing motorists. This helped the spirit somewhat. We even got a standing ovation from a crowd resting at the side of the road as their cars cooled down. Our destination is Vegas, and plan to spend one of our rest days there. We still need to find a better way to keep our drinks cold in the desert heat. Happy 6th anniversary. We enjoyed a beautiful ride through the Virgin River Gorge along Interstate 15 on our way to Utah, probably our most scenic spot to repair yet another flat tire. We arrived at Zion expecting to get an escort through the mile-long tunnel like RVs do, but they no longer do this for cyclists. So, after waiting 20 minutes, the ranger gave us a lift through in her pickup truck. I just about baked, since it had a cap on it. Through this portion of southern Utah and northern Arizona, we had plenty of long, desolate riding. One stretch was 73 miles with no services. Good thing we knew this in advance. We made sure to have as much food and drinks as we could carry. Every week or so, we would call back to work and leave a trip report with our groups. A coworker transcribed the messages and then posted them outside our office, next to our route map. These are added to the album with a little telephone in the corner. We do our first tourist stop of the trip. Four Corners Monument is only half a mile off our route, so we decide to check it out. From there, it's on to Colorado, with today turning out to be the longest of the trip at 123 miles. On our way to the first major pass we'll have in the Rockies, we stop to take a picture of the cattle and a couple cowboys on horseback. I unclip my left foot from the pedal like normal, but for some reason the bike leans to the right. We perform a surreal, slow-motion fall right in front of the cowboys. We sat at the bottom of Red Mountain, looking up in disgust at all the switchbacks. They looked so steep, but as we did them, they were not bad at all. What was scary were the RVs passing us as we clung to the non-existent shoulder and the potentially long fall down. Fortunately, we made it to the top with surprising ease. After picking up some souvenirs from the gift shop on Monarch Pass, we enjoyed a fast descent down the other side. Fewer switchbacks and a 6% grade lasting 10 miles went a long way towards making up for the climb earlier in the day. We had expected to camp in city parks as we crossed Kansas. That's what the Bike Centennial groups do. but we're doing 50 miles more per day than them, which puts us in after the shower facilities were locked up. Sleeping in our two-person tent after 100 plus miles of riding without showers was a recipe for disaster. Cheap motels to the rescue. The stone fence post and barbed wire museum in La Crosse sounded fun, but it was going to be 5 miles off our route. We'll just have to make do with seeing them in person along the fields. We knew the Ozarks were going to be a different kind of challenge than the Rockies. With the Rockies, we knew how long each pass was and how far up we had to go, and for the most part, just pick a gear and keep pedaling. The roller coaster ride provided by the Ozarks forced me to be shifting gears every few seconds. At the crest of each hill, you would generally see a series of 3 or 4 more to look forward to. My mom, sister, and 2 nieces came down from Cincinnati to visit us in Kentucky. It was good since we hadn't had a rest day in nearly 2 weeks and over 1,000 miles. Plus, Mom was glad to see we were surviving the trip, and the girls liked the helmets and the shades. Don't be fooled by the smiling face and the damaged rear rim. We had broken a spoke somewhere in the desert weeks ago. I had trued the wheel with the remaining 47 spokes since I didn't have the tools to repair it properly. I expected it to last the rest of the trip. Wrong. A day after visiting with family, I discovered the rear rim was splitting and was not too sure it would last the remaining 700 miles. So we get an impromptu rest day. We walked 5 miles to rent a car and drove all over creation before getting in touch with someone at Santana Cycles that managed to find a rim in Indiana. I don't think we get to count that as our 13th state, but at least we have a working rear wheel again. Our days through Virginia and western North Carolina seemed to be either hot and humid or rainy. Turns out the Appalachians had something else in store for us as well. We had our largest climbing day with just under 6,000 feet gained, more than either the Rockies or Ozarks could provide. We stopped in Wake Forest to visit my college roommate and his family. He had driven up to DC earlier to get our car from storage and have it at his place for our return trip. We took another day off and enjoyed driving my own car after 6+ weeks. With only 200 miles to go, the end is now in sight. Timing worked out pretty well. Ryan and Kathy brought our car to Nags Head, and we were able to pack up and escape the area before Hurricane Bob arrived that weekend. Being a couple engineers, we kept track of all sorts of stats and facts along the way. Here are some of them, followed up with some graphs. Thanks for watching.